Hey there, Upward coaches. Let me just take a minute and say thank you for committing to another Upward sports season. This league does not happen without dedicated coaches making a good experience for kids, and there's nothing I like more than returning coaches. What that does is that brings people into our league, into our program that are already familiar with what we do, what we value, and they're able to continue doing what we've been doing for a long time. I think we really have been able to run a great league, and much of that is a result of having coaches like you commit to being involved and investing in the kids. So thank you, appreciate you coming back. There's nothing that I like more than having experienced returning coaches committed to invest in our kids. This video is designed to be a modified training for you. Every year we hold an on-site training, and right now we're only asking new coaches to go through that training. This video is designed to just be a shortened version of that, where I can quickly go through updates and make sure that you're fully on board with what we have going on without having to commit an extended amount of time and be on site for one of our trainings. So this is specifically for you as a returning coach. A couple things I want to talk through. One thing is the coach's playbook. The coach's playbook is a book that has all of the information that you need to be effective as an upward coach. It has your devotions in it. It has your practice plans. There's substitution schedules. There's star tracking. Everything that you could possibly want that equips you to be effective as an upward coach. It's in that playbook. Those playbooks do not arrive until we get uniforms. So there may be a practice or two that take place where you're meeting with your team and you don't have that in hand. So there's some other ways that you can get the information that's in that playbook to be able to be effective with your practices. The first one is the website myupward.org. If you want to access the information on there, you can go on myupward.org to get that information. In order to get there, you need an access code. Each one of you should individually be receiving an access code in your email. As soon as we find out you're coaching a team, we enter your information in and your email, and it sends you a unique access code so that you can get on to the website and get that information. The other option would be, and this is actually my preferred option over the physical playbook that I can hold in my hand or the website, and that's the coach's app. This is designed specifically for coaches, and it has everything that you need on it. There's ways to enter all of your players in there. There's ways to do your substitutions through that, your star tracking, obviously your practice plans and your devotions. It's all on the app. It's a great tool, and I always have my cell phone on me, so that's something that I always have in my hand. I'm never missing the information that I need for my practices. Again, you need a unique access code that you should receive in your email. Whenever we get your information and we confirm you as a coach, we put that information in and it sends that out. If there's any problem in getting that access code, or you don't have one, you're not sure where it is, just let us know and we can make sure that we process that. You can always email one of us or respond to one of the emails that we've sent out, and we'll get that information to you. The other thing we would ask you to do is fill out a coach's application. The best way to do that is on our website. And what that is us capturing all of your information that we need to enter into our league database and make sure that everything is updated. There's a lot of times that information changes, and we want to be able to be on top of our communication with you, make sure we have a correct email address for you, and we have all the information that we need from you so that we can continue to communicate with you. So please do that. You can do that on our website, which is AllisonParkUpward.com. We'd like for every coach to do that so that we're fully updated on their information. Some key dates that you'll want to be aware of are when we receive our rosters and when you need to call your teams. We will draft our teams and communicate the rosters to you by November 25th. That's the day after Thanksgiving. And this is typically we'll actually be able to get the information to you a few days earlier than that, because I don't want to be working on Thanksgiving drafting teams and the day after. So I probably will get that to you by Wednesday, but at the very latest, November 25th, that's the day after Thanksgiving, you'll get all that information. Then you have one full week from that period of time, 7 days, to contact your entire team. We're asking you to contact your whole team by December 2nd. And what we do ask is that you don't just send out a mass email to the entire team and walk away and accept that as being completed. We do want you to touch base with every person. So we want you to make contact with every person. What I typically will do is I'll send a mass email out to everybody on my team, introducing myself, explaining practice times, and I'll ask everybody to respond. And if anybody doesn't respond, just confirming that they got the email, I'll just get on the phone and I'll call them and I'll say, hey, this is our practice time. This is who I am. I'm going to be coaching. Ask if they have any questions. And I make sure that I hear back from each person by email, or I talk to each person before that deadline is over, that deadline of December 2nd. So keep that in mind. Make sure you contact your players by that time. The other thing I want to talk about is all the uniforms and supplies. When we order the uniforms, we wait until all of our rosters are completely settled. We start our practices before we order things, because there's a lot of times that things change and then we're moving uniforms around. So we wait till our rosters are finalized, everybody's securely on their team, and we order our uniforms. What that means is many times that the uniforms are not in for the very first practice. They'll definitely be in before the first game. But what we do is we get those boxes. It'll be one big box with your name on it as the head coach. And in that box, there's several different things. The first thing is there's a player box that has all the supplies for each one of your players in there, and they are labeled by each player's name. The player's name is on there specifically because they are ordering specific sizes, they're ordering shorts and things like that. What we ask you to do is when you get your coach's box, it's going to have everything in it. Look at the names and give each child the correct box. There was one year that we had a coach that got all the boxes and he just started dealing them out like a deck of cards. And whoever got a box, they just kept that one. And it was very confusing. We had to go and fix a lot of stuff. So just make sure when you get those boxes, you give them to the appropriate kids. And in there, if they ordered shorts, they'll be shorts. If they're a cheerleader, they ordered a turtleneck, they'll get that. And it just keeps things pretty simple. They're labeled very nicely. Also in that coach's box, there's going to be coach's shirts and your physical playbook that you can, it's the actual book that you can put in your hand, bring to games and things like that. Coaches' shirt sizes, that's also something else that we have to capture during the coach's application process to make sure we have everybody's correct information. Another thing that I want to talk about is practice devotions. At the midpoint of each practice, we actually ask each coach to take a few minutes to go through their devotion. Now, let me just clarify what this is about. This is just a quick period of time to bring the kids together and do a very, very brief Bible lesson. This is not something that's extended. It's not supposed to be half of your practice. I say that this should probably be maybe 4 to 6 minutes. I think 4 minutes is enough time to do everything. You probably don't want to go under that. But if you're going over 6 minutes, you're probably taking up too much time. It should move pretty quickly, and this is your chance to do the devotion or the Bible lesson that is described in your coach's playbook. It's also a time to go through your memory verse and make sure your kids know the verse and things like that. This is not designed to be something that takes over your practice. It should move. People have signed up to play basketball, so we want them to be able to play basketball. And this is just a fun thing to break up your practice a little bit, to do in between practices. So spend 30 minutes doing your skills and drills, take that 4 to 6 minute break, and then spend the remaining time doing your skills and drills or scrimmaging. So there's scripture verses and there's other tools that you can give out to the players that can help them memorize their Bible verses. You can do that at that time. Another thing to be aware of for the players, and you can encourage them to participate with this, you'll probably get some cards that you can pass out to the kids that have information about this. It's a website that's teamupward.com. They can go on there and they can play different games and do different things. So just be aware that that's going to be coming and you can pass that information out. One of the unique dynamics of Upward Sports compared to other sports leagues is something that we call the circle of criticism and the circle of affirmation. What this is, and you've probably heard this before, this is a cycle or a chain of events that happens in sports. I've been involved with sports most of my life, and I've seen this happen many times. Essentially, what happens is a referee makes a call, whether it's good or bad, and different people respond. So let's say a referee makes a bad call, and a coach is unhappy with that, and he expresses that displeasure with the call out loud. What that does is it sets an example for parents to follow that example and also for kids to follow that example. And it really just creates a messy situation. As kids are following parents and coaches, their influence or they're following their example, we may be teaching kids to show some level of disrespect for authority if we are challenging referees. So we do ask that you do something different. This is called the circle of affirmation. It's really the opposite effect of that is, well, if a referee makes a call, even if it's the wrong call, we ask that you as a coach would support that call, that you would respond positively to it. What that does is it sets the tone, it sets the example, and parents are able to follow that example. And if kids look up and they see their coach and their parent responding positively to a referee, typically they're going to follow that example too. I've coached probably about 8 or 9 years since we've started the league, and I've been involved more than that. Haven't coached every year, but as I've coached, I've experienced referees making a bad call, and many times kids will look over to me and they'll wait for me to react. And when I see that happening, I will intentionally clap my hands and say, "Good call, ref, good call," and that instantly re-engages the kid back into the game. They're no longer thinking about the injustice of the call, but they're just thinking about playing basketball. So we encourage you to do that. We do want to acknowledge a process to respond to referees. Our referees are not perfect, and there will be bad calls this year. You will disagree with calls. If there's an ongoing problem with bad calls, there's an appropriate way to handle that. Never should you be talking to a referee during the gameplay about a call. That is something that is really taking the referee out of the game. It's distracting them. So what you can do is you can talk to a referee during a break, whether it's between periods or at halftime. You can talk to a referee and give them feedback. Here's an appropriate way to do that. You want to, number one, watch your tone. So if you're going to them and saying, "Hey, excuse me, ref, this is something that I've noticed," you want to say it in a calm and gentle way. Here's how I would do that. I would go to the referee at halftime. Typically is the best time to do it because there's enough time to talk to them. And I would say, "Hey, I wanted to let you know that number 42 seems to really be physical with my players. They've been pushing each other away from the ball, and sometimes it's hard to see that. Would you be able to keep an eye on that?" And referees very typically will respond positively to that. I've reffed a lot of games, and sometimes knowing what's going on or what somebody else is seeing helps me to see things a little bit better. So go to them between periods. Go to them with a calm voice and just let them know your concerns. If you have ongoing concerns and a referee is not helping with that, you can also go to one of our league directors, one of our game day coordinators, or even one of our commissioners, and we can look into that and try to get things fixed. So keep in mind, as a referee, we're always looking for referees. So if you want to ref, we'd be happy to work with you to do that. But something that is often overlooked is you can see the game better from a coach's perspective than you can from a referee's perspective. What happens is you know your players, you know who's good, you know who's better in the league. When you're reffing a game and you're there all day, you're looking at 150 kids and you don't know who is who, you don't know who's good, you don't know who's not good, you don't know who has a history or different trends. But as a coach, you see those things a lot more clearly. So sometimes just having that little bit of feedback for a referee and you can kind of point things out is helpful. I know when I've refereed, that's always been helpful for me. Something that I also want to talk about is some of the rules unique to Upward. We do not follow the rules unique to Upward that are outlined in your book exactly. There's some modifications that we make. So just want to go through a couple of those so that everybody's on the same page. One thing that has been a change over the last couple of years is at the end of each period, as the countdown clock is winding down, it's always appropriate to throw up a last second shot. Make sure your players are aware of that. We want to encourage kids to do that. And that's just a way to keep the game exciting. And the possession arrow will always determine who starts with the ball. It's not who ends a period with possession. So keep that in mind. We also, regardless of what the book says, we do not call a 3-second violation. The book suggests that we do that for older players. With our league, we're not calling 3-second violations, but we do encourage players to continue moving. So if someone goes and sets up camp in the paint, we would have the referees encourage them to continue moving. Another thing I want to draw attention to is if any player has 2 fouls in one period, they will foul out for that period. we would ask that they step out for the remainder of that period. And when you bring somebody else in their place, you want to bring the next person in the rotation down. So basically, if you're looking at your roster, you should have 5 of your players in. Whoever is next in line to come in should come in for that person. And just to keep things evenly matched with the wristbands, what I always encourage everyone to do is take all the wristbands off, start over, put your wristbands in order, line your players up in order, and give your best player the blue wristband, and so on and so on. So keep that in mind. The other thing is we try to always call traveling. We are lenient at the beginning of the season, so even in some of the younger divisions, we want to call traveling, but we do have a level of understanding with the players that we're working with. So early in the season, kindergarten and first graders, we're not going to call traveling a whole lot, but we are trying to talk them through it. By the end of the season, we will be calling it. We may not be calling it very tight. So, for example, that little kid that gets the ball and they're driving, they go in for a layup and they pick the ball up and they take 5 mini steps, but they only advance about 8 inches. We're not going to call the just shuffling feet as traveling. That's just some coordination issues that 5-year-olds are still going to be struggling with. But we do try to maintain the integrity in the game by calling traveling for every age group, and we want everyone to get to the point where they understand that rule. The other thing that you'll want to be aware of is the last 2 minutes of the game. If there's any fouls, a shooting foul is an automatic 2 points, and a non-shooting foul is 1 point and possession. The reason that we do that is we are going to keep a running clock throughout the game. We have to do that in order to maintain our schedule, to make sure that we're ready to move on to the next game. We can't stop the clock all the time. So this is designed to eliminate the fouling at the end of the game, to just prolong things or to prevent another team from scoring. Last 2 minutes, if there's a foul, shooting foul's 2 points, non-shooting foul's 1 point, and possession. So keep that in mind. Another thing to be aware of is we do not have an and one rule. So if you make a shot and got fouled, it's just going to be the 2 points for making that basket. Substitution system. Each of you have coached before, so you should be relatively aware of the substitution system. If you're not aware of that, we're actually going to send some documentation out in email to make sure that everybody's on the same page. It's the same thing we've always done. So the first game, first period, you're going to start with your top 5 players, your highest ranked players. Then you always pick up with the next player who hasn't played, and you go through the next 5 players and continue that cycle. Game 2, you start with your second player. Game 3, you start with your third player, and you just go through that. So keep that in mind. The other thing is with the wristbands, you want to make sure that you're giving the appropriate wristband to the appropriate player. This is one of the things that I love about Upward. We really want to create good matchups for all of our players. So the best player on the court on Team A should always be matching up against the best player on the court on Team B. So what you want to do is every period you take all the wristbands off and you start over. You line your players up from highest rated player all the way down to the lowest rated player on the court, and you give your wristbands out. The person wearing the blue wristband should always be the best player on the court. Person wearing the orange wristband is number 2. Red is number 3, white is number 4, and yellow is number 5. So that means that your top player will always have the blue wristband, regardless of when they're playing or how far you are into the season. There's one player that will always be blue, and then there's also a player that will always be yellow, your lowest rated player. So keep that in mind. If you have questions about that, please talk to myself, talk to one of our game day coordinators, talk to one of our referees. We want to make sure that wristband process is something that we're all aware of, because that really helps create a good playing experience for everybody. If you have any questions about anything throughout the league year, please let us know. You can shoot us an email, send us a message. You can respond to any of the emails that we're sending out to you, and we will make sure we get back to you and help you out with that. We appreciate you. Looking forward to a great season. So good to have you back. I'm very excited this year. I think that this year is going to be our biggest season that we've ever had before. Have a lot of great signups right now. We have a lot of coaches committed, and it's still early in October as I'm recording this video. So looking forward to a great season. Also, just so you're aware, we're looking to launch a new division for pre-K kids, for 4 and 5 year olds. So that's going to be a lot of fun as we launch that and even develop some players. So in future years, they're able to participate with our program. It's going to be great. Looking forward to it. I want you to have a great season. And again, I appreciate you. Thanks so much for being involved with us this year.